Dun dun dun! Dramatic music as we roll into another awesome painting video here on Byerly Studios. Now, as you can see, we're painting out some turtles here in a time lapse. How awesome is that, you guys? Now, this is the final painting session for the awesome, amazingly great Disney Pixar I Love You short, where we were creating a Sculpting original light switch. Not just have I had this on my project list for a very long time, but I'm also creating this for a 3D Tumbler Lounge Facebook group challenge, where we were using the clay to create a 3D sculpted light switch. As I zoom out on the video here, you'll be able to see that there are two light switch ports on this, and this is going to go into a bathroom, beach-themed bathroom for my kids. Super exciting. I've had this on my list for a while, you guys, and I'm really excited to be releasing the last painting video. Now, I did release all of these painting videos in their own individual little segments, so you can watch those individually if you just want to see one particular area, but I also am going to incorporate them into a more long-form content, and I'll probably do a separate voiceover for that specific video. So if you want to see this in a more long-form content, it will be available here shortly as well on the playlist, which I'll link at the very end of this video. As you can see, we started off with some just basic colors in general. We started off with a complete layer of yellow ochre. Now, I know that these turtles could be absolutely vibrant and beautiful, but I really wanted to introduce a lot of the colors that you see in the background on the wall plate, which are a lot of like sap greens, turquoise, but I am going to kind of throw some little surprises in there, and we're going to be using a little bit of gold in these little paintings as well. Both turtles obviously are in love. As you can see, they have fins kind of laying up over each of their heads, which means they are in a embrace or a hugging kind of like stature there. And I'm going to go ahead and just kind of brush in a lot of layers here. I'm really not even waiting for it to dry at this point. So some of the yellow ochre is getting pulled to the top. We can go ahead and mix up a lot of turquoise, a lot of sap green, a little bit of burnt umber, all sorts of different colors. And we're really just kind of applying washes over washes, especially around where the wrinkly skin is underneath the edges of their shells. There's so many opportunities there for just a beautiful layer of skin there, and we want to introduce a lot of those colors that we have in the background behind the turtles. It's going to make it to where those turtles just don't draw the eye too much, but at the same time they're just going to be really fun and cool and really pretty. I want to make sure I can kind of see these little shell kind of patterns even while you're sitting or in the bathtub or something across the way from the light switch in the bathroom. So I'm going to go ahead and make the shells just a little bit of a yellow ochre kind of like hexagonal pattern. And this is more so going to get washed out as we apply a few more layers here. Doing another little dry brush over some raised edges of the skin around the face of yellow ochre. And then here in a moment we'll put the yellow ochre away for its final effect. We're also going to start to introduce another layer of washes. This is more of a burnt umber wash, making sure that I get some of those shadows built in here before we start to work in any more turquoise to sap green colors. I want to make sure the turtles look relatively the same, so we're going to make sure that they're of the same species in general, and that'll just keep them from drawing too much eye. I also used a little bit of a kind of a sap green to a turquoise mix, and I gave those lines on the shells just a little bit of a wet layer there, and it's going to help those kind of dilute and kind of ombre out onto those yellow ochre kind of hexagonal patterns. It'll make sense here in a few minutes when I start to apply those washes to that. Making sure not to lose those recessed shadows around the male on the right hand side of the eye as well as the mouth. And we want to make sure that we can kind of see that beak-like face that the turtles have just naturally. I'm also going to mix up now a wash. This is going to be a sap green, a little bit of a turquoise, and a minuscule amount of titanium white wash, and that was going to go over the shells. I'll do that 2 times in total, and I'll also use that same wash around the faces, around the neck, just a little bit in a very wet fashion, and then it kind of blends it all together. We want to make it look very nice and very symmetrical. We don't want them to look like they're two completely different turtles, and we don't want them to just really just draw the eye too much. Second layer here of that wash. It's a very dirty, nasty wash, and it's going to kind of blend out some of those vibrant colors, whereas some of that's kind of showing through here. Now, this right here is a titanium white mixture here, a little bit of I didn't really put it on very opaque, and that is going to eventually be a glare from the sunlight. And go around the outside edges of the shell there just to give it a little bit of a shimmering highlight there. And we'll come back to those glares when we get really close to the very end of this portion of the painting video. Yeah, I said it now. We're going to introduce a little bit more yellow ochre here. Very minuscule amount at all. And the reason which I'm about to start introducing some gold. Here's that gold, you guys. It's very vibrant. We're not going to use too much of it because we don't want it to be too overpowering. We're also going to put that gold over those original yellow ochre marks on the turtle shell. And these will create like a kind of a shimmering gold effect on the shells. And they'll look very vibrant and very cool when it's all said and done. Here's more of a almost titanium white mixture of sap green and turquoise into a nice light blue color. And you can see how opaque that is. It's really blending out over those kind of raised edges there. And apart from the face, we're really just doing a dry brush over those skin wrinkles. Making sure to bring back in those burnt umbers, again, around the outside edges of the turtle shell. And I will also come in right before I do a epoxy layer here, and I will also introduce a little bit of inks around those, just to darken those out even more with a little bit of sepia. But I'll be very, very sparingly on that. And that's more so just to kind of darken out the eyes again, the recesses under the edges of the shell, as well as underneath their body. Making sure to incorporate some of those darker browns on the beach so that way they actually have shadows. And they're just not on a bright beach sandy base. You want to give them a little bit of dimension. And the easiest way to do that is to give them a shadow. What do you think, you guys? Look how awesome this wall plate turned out to be, you guys. And those little turtles are not really, like, they don't draw the eye too much. They look really good against the green background. But the blue waves in the background really do help it pop. What do you think, you guys? I think that I was really good in the color choices. I really didn't plan my colors out during this process. I just kind of winged it, threw some colors on my palette, and just ran with it. I will go ahead and say that those glares on the turtle shells turned out spectacular, and I'm really happy with how they turned out. And you might see a little bit of that come back in the next video. As far as painting, the only thing I have left to do is just kind of like block in her hair with some ivory black before I do a little bit of a gray ombre effect over those kind of like textured striations that I have applied with the sculpting tools. Her hair does kind of like flow in particular directions. That way her hair just looks like it's going in the right direction. On top of the head, around where the volcanic ash is coming out, all of that is very textured. Make sure you like and subscribe, you guys, and I will catch you in the final version of this playlist, which will be us applying a Flynn Sister epoxy. Super excited for that, you guys. Let's get some epoxy out.